Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get started. This is our last legislative session before recess. So we have a lot on our agenda today. We're going to begin our session with an invocation by Bishop Paul Walker Sr., Healing and Deliverance Ministry. Please rise if you're able.
Let us look unto him or her who is able to keep us from falling. It is unto him or her we pray. He is she in whose name we trust. We pray in these historic times to invoke the presence and guidance of your wisdom, for you sit high and you look low. You're omnipresent, you are omnipotent. In every tongue and in every name we ask that you guide this council, not only in its political policies and agenda, but guide them as individuals, and then as a team, speaking to their hearts and minds, that they may continue to hold true these county's objectives of being a fair and welcoming place to live. Let this session before recess be a moment where goodness, fairness, speak to the idea of justice, speak to the idea of equality, and speak to the idea of equity for all. In these tumultuous, divisive times of tweets, hateful rhetoric, and unending sound bites, let this council be that melody and voice that will speak from a place of justice, speak from a place of equality, and speak from a place of equity, and speak from a place of light that is resistant to the tweets and sound bites and hateful rhetoric, and stay their course. Madam President, que Dios te bendiga. Gentlemen, councilmen, God bless you, we pray. Amen.
Muchas gracias. Thank you so much. So now we have one presentation, a proclamation recognizing Farmers Market Week by Councilmember Feetson.
Well, as everybody starts to come up, it is such an honor to be here to recognize those in our community who help to run and coordinate our farmers markets. When we talk about sustainable living, when we talk about placemaking, when we talk about community, I can't think of places that embody that more than our farmers markets. I myself am a frequent flyer at many of our farmers markets around the county. Next week is going to be National Farmers Market Week. While we're in recess, and we're gathered here today to thank and honor farmers markets, not only for bringing our communities together, but for providing social and economic opportunity and for connecting our rural, suburban, and urban residents through these great community settings. Just as food trucks have helped many new individuals enter the market of the food industry, farmers markets have provided a low-cost point of entry for farmers, entrepreneurs, and community members to gain visibility. And many of our residents are seeking more community and social connections, and these are just welcome opportunities to do just that. Moreover, farmers markets serve many other laudable community goals, encouraging healthy eating, supporting our local business community, educating residents about where our food actually is sourced from, reducing food waste, and promoting our environmental sustainability goals. In terms of the incredible farmers that we have in our amazing agricultural community, we recognize the challenges facing our agricultural community and our farmers. And this is just a great opportunity to bring everybody together to help our farmers, to help our communities, to support our sustainable living and eating, and to help build community. So thank you all for being here. If everybody could just quickly say who you're here representing. Just go ahead.
So I'm Nani Dutton, and I'm the Deputy Director of Fresh Farm, and we're happy to be here for farmers markets, in the county. We really appreciate Montgomery County being a strong supporter of farmers markets. We run the downtown Silver Spring Farmers Market, which has 45 farmers and producers, 10 of which are within Montgomery County. And we're a nonprofit that supports sustainable agriculture in the region. But we really appreciate that Montgomery County's commitment to expanding food access choices for low-income families in the county and, in Maryland. We just really appreciate, the county's commitment to helping, expand those choices. They've been an incredible partner in that we really feel that farmers markets that, and sustainable food systems that are not accessible are inherently unsustainable. And Montgomery County has been a great partner in that. And I really have to say your employee, Eric Rosh, at the Civic Building has been an incredible partner helping us expand the downtown Silver Spring Farmers Market. He's been really helpful for us, and we just see really bright things to come. So.
Great. All right. Just everyone, one person per organization that's here, just very quickly, name of organization so we can recognize you.
Hi, I'm Janet Terry. I'm the president of the Only Farmers Market, here with Sandy Tucker, our vice president, and we are 501c3, and we want to have a special shout out to Jeremy Chris, a strong supporter, and all of you. The whole county has been amazing. We've grown over the past 13 seasons astronomically, and we are thrilled to be here. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Sandra Marquardt with the Forest Estates Farmers Market. We are the one and only farmers market on county parkland. We're very proud of that. And we were founded 10 years ago and just had our 10th year celebration this last Saturday. So this has been quite a week. Thank you very much to the council and to the Department of Agriculture and everybody who's made it possible.
Hi, I'm Linda Lewis of Lewis Orchards in Dickerson, Maryland. My husband is the 4th generation farmer in Montgomery County.
Go ahead, ladies. Or from whatever direction.
Cool. Thank you.
Andy Rosati, City of Gaithersburg. I supervise the 2 farmers markets, Folks Corner and Main Street. I'm here today with our director, Michelle Potter of Parks, Recreation, and Culture, and the farmers market and program coordinator, Amanda McPherson.
Good morning. I'm Heather Breskin, and I'm the Executive Director of the Montgomery County Food Council. I'm here with my colleague, Catherine Nardi. And the Food Council is a nonprofit that convenes food and beverage producers, farmers, nonprofit partners, and government agencies around cultivating a robust, sustainable, and equitable local food system. And so thank you to all of our farmers market partners who've been really critical in moving our MoCo Made movement forward.
Hi, good morning. My name is Morgan Wiggin. I'm the Farmers Market Program Manager with Crossroads Farmers Market in Tacoma Park, and we're very thankful to the county and the council for supporting us.
All right.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Gigi Goen. Good morning, everyone. I want to start by thanking you for bringing us together today. Thanks to Jeremy Chris and our County Ag Department for supporting us the last 9 years. I run Milk Lady Farmers Markets. We have 2 locations, one at Shady Grove on the Johns Hopkins campus in Rockville, the other the Durwood Farmers Market. Our Durwood team is out today in our green I Love Durwood Farmers Market t-shirt. And our farmers market, our Shady Grove's been around for 9 years, 9 seasons. Our Durwood, this is our 2nd season at both markets. We give $30 in matching dollars to shoppers who are using WIC seniors and SNAP to shop for fruits and vegetables. At our markets, we match dollar for dollar up to $30. You all remember the food stamp challenge, how hard it is to live on that limited amount of money. So we try to do our part by raising money privately and funding that bank. Durwood Alliance Church has been a serious partner this year, and we thank them as well. Thank you again.
Thank you. Well, you can see we have a wide range of folks from all over the county, and it's just a wonderful movement and provides so much for our community. So I'm going to present the proclamation to everybody here. Montgomery County Council proclamation, whereas more than 25 farmers markets are operating in Montgomery County, many of which are here. which are anchors of our communities, connecting and activating neighborhoods and promoting public health and well-being. And whereas farmers markets provide a low barrier entry point for farmers and entrepreneurs to sell and test new products, all while boosting the local economy. And whereas farmers markets are a bridge between urban and rural communities, supporting livelihoods through the sustainability of family farms, promoting understanding of the benefit of the county's 93,000-acre agricultural reserve, and educating about our local food system. And whereas our commitment to sustainability is reflected by farmers markets as they reduce transportation costs as well as harmful emissions with non-local produce. And whereas farmers markets reduce food waste and associated negative environmental impacts by redirecting meals to food insecure county residents, simultaneously addressing two vexing social challenges. Now therefore be it resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland hereby recognizes National Farmers Market Week, presented on this 30th day of July 2019, signed by myself, Andrew Friedson, and the Council President, Nancy Navarro. Congratulations.
Okay, now we're on to general business. Are there any announcements, Ms. Lamarcy?
Yes, good morning. There is an addendum this morning. The second presentation has been deleted and will be rescheduled at a later time. We have added an item to the consent calendar acknowledging receipt of 2 recent Office of the Inspector General reports. There is a slight correction to item 15. It will be the confirmation of the county executive's appointment for the director of the Department of Correction and Rehabilitation. And we have added an item 6.5, which will be the appointment of an acting clerk. There are some other announcements. The council is seeking applicants for the Board of Appeals. The deadline has been extended to August 16th, and information for the filling of those spots is online. A public hearing has been set on the spending affordability guidelines for FY21 capital budget and the FY21 to 26 capital improvements program. Council will be holding a public hearing on September 17th at 1:30. There are no petitions this week.
Thank you very much. So the minutes of June 27th and July 9th have been distributed. Are there any corrections? Hearing none, those are approved. Now we're on to item number 2, consent calendar. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilmember Cass, second by Councilmember Rice. All right. Don't see any lights, so all those in favor of adopting the consent calendar, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous among those present. Excellent. Okay, now we're on to item 3, and this is action, supplemental appropriation and amendment to the FY20 capital budget and FY19 to 24 capital improvements program CIP for $3 million for bus rapid transit for Maryland 355. The source is development impact taxes. All right, I see Dr. Orland is here. Let me turn over to Councilmember Hucker if he's got comments to share with us.
Thank you, Madam President. So regarding the BRT on Maryland 355, the committee voted to allocate $3 million requested by DOT and the executive to continue planning and preliminary engineering. The committee instructed DOT to move forward with the best elements from each of the 4 alternatives developed during the planning process up to this point. The committee recommends that the council approve the allocation to keep this important project on track. Dr. Orland.
Okay.
Couldn't say it better myself.
All right. That's wonderful. Okay, I don't, oh, councilors, any lights? Any? No,
This is 355 first.
Councilmember Reamer.
Thank you. I just wanted to note that the executive branch is seeking to issue an RFP to solicit public-private partnership models for the construction of this system. And
RFI.
what's that?
RFI.
RFI. Thank you. Not an RFP.
Sure.
RFI. It will first be an
Information.
RFI, and then if they get good results, they'll proceed with an RFP. I know the committee chair knows all this, but I thought some of my colleagues might be interested to hear about it. The interesting thing was we talked a lot about there's general agreement about the median busway being the optimal type of infrastructure, but the executive branch did not want us to pick one of those specific alignment choices so that the public-private partnership companies would have more options to propose. So I thought that was interesting. I think it's interesting that they're looking at a PPP, and we'll see if they can get some kind of result there. They said that they're moving quickly and hope to have a letter out very soon. I certainly observed that a PPP requires a source of revenue, and since this is a bus network, revenue is not really a major element of, you don't have a lot of revenue to offer. There's no tolls here. There's just fares, and fares typically only cover 25% of the operating expense of a bus system. So I'll be interested to see what revenue options the county executive has to put into the mix as an incentive for an appeal. But I do think it would be well worth doing if we could actually get it done, so we'll just see where this goes. Did I misstate anything, Glenn, or is that all?
That's my understanding as well.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Friedson.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you to the T&E Committee for allowing me to join to discuss this. I appreciate the thoughtful deliberation there that went into this and the support that the T&E Committee has for moving forward with bus rapid transit. I just want to make sure that proceeding in the way that has been decided by not selecting a preferred alternative, but working toward the alternative B modified and looking at whether alternative C is possible south of Tuckerman Lane, that we don't risk holding up preliminary engineering, and we continue moving forward on what has been and continues to be a key economic development, environmental, and transportation priority for the county, and I look forward to working together with everybody for that. It's particularly important in District 1 with the economic development potential as discussed at the meeting in the Pike District, and I see this as a key piece of that. This council, this Transportation and Environment Committee, and the previous council has been extremely supportive of those efforts. This is a key to fulfilling the vision of the Pike District White Flint master plan, and I am hopeful that we can move forward as quickly as possible and make sure that we actually realize that vision, which is critical not only to that part of the county, but to the entire county's economic potential as well. Thanks.
Councilmember Rice.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I just wanted to reiterate how important this is for members of the Up County. And remind folks as a part of our conversation that we had around whether or not to consider whether MARC would actually be a transit hub sort of moniker for us. We don't have a lot when it comes to access to mass transit besides our MARC rail station and sporadic ride-on bus service. And so it really is important for us to continue to build on those. I remind people that we have 100,000 people in the Germantown area alone. Clarksburg continues to grow by the thousands. And so it really is important for us to make sure that we're creating different types of modality. And so I really appreciate the support of the T&E Committee and my colleagues in continuing to provide options for our residents in the Up County. I will say that we need all. We need the reversible hot lanes on 270, and so I'm very happy to see the T&E committee continue to focus on their work with the state and pushing them in that direction, so I really appreciate their help. And we need these transit alternatives as well. These mass transit options are going to be critical when it comes to really ensuring that the quality of life for our up-county residents is one that's similar to those that are in our down-county region. So I thank you for your great work and your support.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Glass.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to pick up on Councilmember Rice's point in that during the conversation at the committee, we gave considerable time to talking about the 355 route alignment and recognizing or asking the question, where would one begin on this 22-mile journey? And it had been noted, rightfully so, that there are a dearth of options in the up-county, and we spent some considerable time talking about that. So I want you to know that your point was taken or heard. But I also just want to say that at the committee, it was, new information, as Councilmember Reamer said, was shared with us about some of the thoughts that the executive has as he wants his team to move forward with this. And it, over the weekend, I ruminated over this a little bit, and recognizing that while we did not select a preferred alternative, I just want to make sure that we don't continue studying this thing to death. And $3 million after studies, more than a decade, maybe even 2 decades worth of studies, at some point we need to make decisions. We need to do what our residents demand, what our businesses need in order to get our residents moving safely and efficiently throughout our region.
All right.
Well, and
yes, go ahead.
Madam President, to that point, the $3 million, to be clear, is preliminary engineering. It's not further study. And yes, we love us some up-county. So I move the committee recommendation, Madam President.
We shall put that on a bumper sticker. Just a quick, if you can remind me, Dr. Orland, this was part of those 2 items that I think the executive wanted to take a little bit more time, but I think this was something that you felt very strongly that we should address. Was this those 2? We had ample conversation about that.
Well, back a little bit of background. Last winter, Mr. Reamer had proposed accelerating the Viersville Road project, and what DOT said, well, we'll be finished with hopefully a preferred alternate by the summer. Why don't you take up both that and Viersville Road this summer? So, and they've done that. They finished their work through what's called Phase 1 of facility planning, and all the data's in this. A lot of it's in this packet. And so it gave the opportunity for the council to make a decision which of these 2 to move forward with, or both. Excuse me. What's happened is that although there are discrete alternatives that are in the report for 355, the executive did not want to recommend any one at this point for the reasons that have already been given. There may be pieces of it can be done in different places as opposed to like one generic alternative. And they also want to solicit ideas from the private sector to see what they might be able to come up with, probably within the same boundary of alternatives we're talking about. So the money would be spent for preliminary engineering, which is much more detailed impacts, more ridership, we're going to have more ridership estimates, and more fine-grained ones. That was an item that came up during the public hearing. There are probably 2 or 3 different ways that these ridership estimates are understated, and we want to make sure we have the right amount so we can size this properly, as well as looking at the environmental impacts, community impacts, and even if the ultimate decision is to stage this with one part going forward, the other part not going forward right away, it's still important to have preliminary engineering done for the whole thing, because in the area where you're not doing work, it's still important to know what the right-of-way take will be. So if there are dedications to be made, park and planning will know, well, instead of it being necessarily this wide, maybe it's just this wide. And so this is all productive work, and that's why the committee's recommending it.
Excellent. All right. So I think everything has been said. I think that we should understand how critical these kinds of decisions are for our overall goals of making sure that we continue to be vibrant, especially when it comes to our issues around housing and positioning ourselves, especially in the region. So these kinds of decisions, I think, will move us closer to that. All right. So with that, all those in favor, please raise your hand. And it's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, so now we're on to item number 4, and this is supplemental appropriation and amendment for the FY20 capital budget and FY19 to 24 CIP. This is $1 million for BRT for the Veers Mill corridor, which was a very important priority, especially in our district. We share Veers Mill corridor, and the T&E committee recommends approval. Councilmember Hooker.
Thank you, Madam President. On Veers Mill Road, the council in 2017 decided on a BRT alternative that will create a dozen queue jumps for buses to bypass traffic congestion between Rockville and Wheaton. DOT requested at this point $1 million to begin preliminary engineering on this alternative, which is known as Alternative 2.5. The committee voted to approve the $1 million to advance the project to preliminary design. The committee unanimously recommends that the council do the same to advance this equally important project on the Veers Mill corridor. And I'll add, by keeping the 355 corridor and the Veers Mill corridor on the same schedule, now that DOT is going to go back and take a second look at the ridership numbers, we're hoping that those projects moving forward together will give an opportunity to increase the ridership numbers on both corridors because they'll have more connectivity. So with that, I move the committee recommendation.
Could I interject? There's actually, the committee recommendation is actually this, to accelerate not just the $1 million from FY 23 to FY 20, but also accelerate $2 million from FY 24 to FY 21, and for the appropriation to be $3 million rather than $1 million. So you're basically appropriating all the money for preliminary engineering for Veers Mill Road BRT, which will take about 2 years. Furthermore, the committee recommended deleting the final design funds, which are now currently in FY 24 and beyond 6 years, as being sort of inappropriate to have that in the CIP yet until preliminary engineering is done. So the final PDF that's being recommended by the committee is actually on Circle, I'm sorry, it's very back of the packet, or near the back. No, that's not true either. Let's see, it's on Circle 106 to 107. There it is. So again, it accelerates $1 million from FY 23 to FY 20, $2 million from FY 24 to FY 21, and deletes the design funds that we're showing in FY 24 and FY and beyond 6 years. And the appropriation would be for $3 million.
All right. Councilmember Reamer.
Thank you, Glenn. I just wanted to follow up on the comments from Councilmember Glass. I really concur about the need to move into building these routes. Since I joined the council in 2010, we've been studying and working and engineering, and the executive's budget this year did not accelerate the Veers Mill plan. We talked about accelerating, and I, as you mentioned, Glenn, asked for an amendment to the capital budget so that we could accelerate it. And I think with this action today, we will indeed be accelerating from what it was previously. Having invoked the executive's name, the Department of Transportation is now at the dais to join us. I don't know if there's anything you want to add, but we've got to move as quickly as possible, which is why I was very intrigued by the idea of an RFI for public-private partnership on 355. Who knows if that'll work, but we got to do whatever we can to get this stuff built. And frankly, I thought the most interesting thing we learned from this discussion was that there's huge ridership gains to be made from operational improvements to these routes. You know, there's thousands and thousands of more daily riders we can generate just by providing more bus service. And I would like to propose in our next budget that we continue to expand that bus service on 355, on Veers Mill, on 29, just as we started to do recently with the 101 and with the Flash. So there's a lot of room to grow bus service through operational improvements. And if we're not making those operational investments, we're just talking about capital investments that may or may not occur 20 years from now. I don't think we're really having an authentic conversation about expanding public transportation. So let's keep our eyes on that ball as well. There's a lot of room to expand our bus service. And fortunately, the council worked hard to save some of the bus routes from cuts in the operating budget this year. We couldn't save them all, but hopefully we will be able to expand our investment next year.
I just wanted to state our concurrence with the council's objective to move these projects forward and make actionable steps so that they're going in the direction towards implementation and not continuing to go on a cycle of planning and revisiting decisions that we've made in the past. That was my only point.
Thank you. And I do recall that this particular one was I think this was the one that perhaps was going to be sent later. And I felt it was very important that we move forward in this spirit, because we have been here before for quite a while, and we have been very good at identifying the importance of these particular corridors and these routes. And so I think that we're at a good spot right now to continue to make gains. So I think with that, I don't see any other lights. So all those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. Thank you. Okay. And we're on to item number 5, and this is the call of bills for final reading. We have Bill 8-19, Erosion, Sediment Control, and Stormwater Management, High PAH Sealants. The T&E Committee recommends enactment with amendments. So I'll turn it over to Councilmember Hucker.
Thank you, Madam President. Okay, we have everybody. Well, thanks to Councilmember Rice for bringing this forward. This is a wise update to legislation he passed in 2012, I believe. It's an update to existing county restrictions on coal tar sealants in driveways, and the bill has been amended to give both the homeowners and the sealant industry plenty of time to get ready for this new standard. The T&E Committee had an efficient work session on this bill. Now we recommend it for passage before the full council. As the concern was in 2012 with coal tar sealants, the concern now is around high levels of polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs, in asphalt and driveway sealants. They're carcinogenic to humans and animals and bad for our waterways and our Bay watershed. At the work session, we confirmed that DEP staff is on track with our partners in D.C. who are adopting the same type of legislation to adopt a protocol for testing these sealants for their PAH levels before the bill will go into effect July 1st of 2020. There is some concern from the industry that they might not hit that target. We think it's important that they have that incentive, that we put this in law now, and if we're delayed on that front, we'll certainly hear about it in time for the April 2020 status update from DEP, and we can consider at that time if we need to push back the effective date. Once there's a PAH level testing protocol adopted by DEP, they'll be charged with creating a safe list of products that is confirmed to have less than 0.1% PAH levels that the public can refer to. And if a product is not on that list and a homeowner wants to use the product, they just have to show the county proof that it has less than 0.1% PAH. The bill is amended, shows our commitment to the Bay, and gives the public and the sealant industry plenty of time to start developing products without harmful PAH levels, one of which is already on the markets. So I recommend the committee product. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rice.
Well, thank you very much, and let me again give my thanks to the T&E Committee for their great work. Look, Councilmember Hucker has done a great job of laying out what this bill does, and what I want to do is just talk about what we continue as a council to be challenged with. In a time in which our federal government, especially our executive leadership, is not supportive of us turning back some of the practices that we have that we know are damaging our climate and our earth, are contributing to climate change. We at the local level are doing it. We're not just about passing resolutions to say that we want to change and make a difference when it comes to our climate being affected, our earth and its longevity being affected, but we're actually doing things. And I think that's important, and I think it's important for people to hear. And so for Councilmember Jawando, the millions that are watching at home, please tell people about the work that's being done here on the council. Because it's incredibly important, and we're doing our part locally to make sure that we're making a difference. And so this is one of those where, again, we're setting an example. We would be the first county in the nation to actually do this. The District of Columbia, as Councilmember Hucker said, has already done this, and Prince George's is right behind us. I spoke with Todd Turner, who's the chair of the Prince George's County delegation. He has had a conversation with Mary Lehman, who's the one who put forth the coal tar sealant bill back in 2012, and they're going to be doing that when they come back from recess. And so once again, we will be the Anacostia watershed that not only is coal tar free, but also PAH free. And that's one of the things that I think means a lot when we're talking about the longevity and the health of our Chesapeake Bay, our waterways, and our community as a whole. We can do this at a local level because the federal government is not doing it. The impetus is on us. And so I really appreciate the committee rolling up their sleeves. I appreciate my co-sponsors who have continued to support this effort, and I'm really looking forward to this and all the other types of legislation locally that we do as a council to make our world a better place for us and a future more secure for our future generations. So thank you, Madam President. And thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the T&E Committee. And council staff.
Everybody.
And my staff.
There you go.
Everyone.
Everybody.
Are you accepting the Academy Award or not?
I left my list of who to thank at home, so.
You're doing just fine. All right, so I don't see any other lights. This is a roll call vote.
Mr. Glass?
Yes.
Mr. Glass votes yes. Mr. Jawando?
Yes.
Mr. Jawando votes yes. Mr. Hucker? Yes. Mr. Hucker votes yes. Mr. Reamer? Yes. Mr. Reamer votes yes. Mr. Albornoz? Yes. Mr. Albornoz votes yes. Mr. Rice? Yes. Mr. Rice votes yes. Mr. Friedson? Yes. Mr. Friedson votes yes. Mr. Katz?
Yes.
Mr. Katz votes yes. Ms. Navarro? Yes. Ms. Navarro votes yes.
Okay, so it passes unanimously. Excellent. Now we're on to item 5B. This is Bill 10-19, Legislative Branch Economic Impact Statements Amendments. The GO Committee recommends enactment with amendments. And this bill requires the Office of Legislative Oversight to prepare an economic impact statement for each bill instead of finance, where the responsibility currently lies. Also, I'd like to mention that the lead sponsor is Councilmember Friedson, and it was co-sponsored by myself, Council Vice President Katz, and Councilmembers Rice, Glass, Hucker, Reamer, Jawando. It was introduced on May 7th, and we did have a public hearing on June 11th and a work session on GO on July 15th. And under current law, the finance director's failure to submit an economic impact statement would not invalidate an otherwise valid bill. Bill 10-19 would only retain this provision for an expedited bill. And basically, we did not discuss the possibility that a bill other than expedited bill could be challenged in court if no EIS is submitted or if someone alleges the EIS not complete. We felt that our amendment makes the substantive contents of the EIS discretionary in order to avoid a legal challenge to the sufficiency of such EIS. And we also amended the effective date to March 1st, 2020. So with that, the committee recommends 3-0, recommends the bill as amended. Let me turn it over to the sponsor, Councilmember Friedson.
Thank you, Council President, for that description and for your support and co-sponsorship and work during committee along with the Council Vice President. Thank you to all of my colleagues for co-sponsoring this important piece of legislation, and thank you to Council staff and to the Executive Branch for your thoughtful feedback. I think we came to a good consensus on maintaining the strength and intent of the bill while alleviating some concerns about some legal issues, and I think we really did what we were trying to do, which is to foster a healthy and growing private sector economy so we can actually afford all of the services and investments that we talk about, and so that we can make sure that in every decision that we make here at the County Council and in county government, that we are considering what impact it has on our business community, on our nonprofit community, and on the employers who are paying the wages that sustain our quality of life and are paying the tax revenues that provide the resources for the services that we rely on. I think this is just one example, which I am proud to spearhead, but that this council has taken on to really emphasize and to really focus on to make sure that we are viewing the business community as partners, not just as revenue generators. And I think that spirit of partnership and that collaboration is something that we're going to have to continue in order to maintain our high quality of life, maintain our high level of services, and keep up with the growing needs that we have in the county. The public sector can't do it alone. We need the private sector to join us in an increasingly competitive regional economy and an increasingly competitive national and international economy. We really need to continue to push the envelope and make sure that we are being as comprehensive as we can, understanding the impact not only on our budget here at the county, but on the budgets of Montgomery County residents and Montgomery County businesses. So thank you for everybody's support, thoughtful feedback, and I look forward to passage of this bill and the message that it sends to our residents and our business community.
Thank you. Mr. Drummer, anything that you need to add that I didn't cover?
No, I think you explained the bill.
Thank you. Okay, so this is also a roll call vote.
Mr. Glass?
Yes.
Mr. Glass votes yes. Mr. Jawando?
Yes.
Mr. Jawando votes yes. Mr. Hucker?
Yes.
Mr. Hucker votes yes. Mr. Reamer? Yes. Mr. Reamer votes yes. Mr. Albornoz? Yes. Mr. Albornoz votes yes. Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Mr. Rice votes yes. Mr. Friedson?
Yes.
Mr. Friedson votes yes. Mr. Katz?
Yes.
Mr. Katz votes yes. Ms. Navarro?
Yes.
Ms. Navarro votes yes.
Okay, so that is unanimous. All right, so now we're on to item 5C. This is expedited bill 21-19, property tax credit, elderly individuals and retired military service members, surviving spouse. This particular bill was introduced on, there was a public hearing on July 16th, and the bill was introduced on June 25th. We had a work session in GO on July 25th. The lead sponsors are Councilmember Rice Katz and co-sponsors Navarro, Albornoz, and Glass. This expands property tax credit for surviving spouses of retired military service members. The bill would implement changes made during the 2019 General Assembly session. This was an enabling law that was changed. Under Bill 21-19, a surviving spouse will be eligible for the credit if the individual is a surviving spouse of a retired member of the Uniformed Services, the Military Reserves, or the National Guard. The surviving spouse is at least 65 years old, and the surviving spouse has not remarried. The lead sponsors, I think I already said that. An individual, we did have an individual that requested that the tax credit be extended to disabled veterans. However, the council does not have the power to make that amendment because the tax credit authority is granted to counties by the state. So we would need another enabling act. And we said that we would pursue those conversations. And also, the data on economic and fiscal impact was inconclusive due to the fact that the county is unable to make an accurate estimate on the number of surviving military spouses. However, Finance and OMB estimated that the overall impact on county finances should be negligible, and there would likely be a small boost in disposable income for qualifying households. So we voted 3-0 to adopt this bill with no amendments. All right, Councilmember Rice.
Well, thank you very much, Madam President, and I want to thank my lead co-sponsor, Council Vice President Katz, as well as you, Madam President, and the other, excuse me, co-sponsors. This is an incredibly important bill because, again, as I said in committee, honoring the service that our service members put forth, and then having them pass away, but understanding the sacrifices that families make is incredibly important to us. And we want to honor that sacrifice and commitment that those who have served in our armed forces have done for us. And so this bill, I really want to thank Senator Will Smith, who's actually deployed abroad, and Delegate Janelle Wilkins for their sponsorship of this enabling legislation in Annapolis that allowed us to do this. But I also want to highlight a woman who deserves a lot of credit in terms of her support in the passage of this, and that's Sheila Myers. She is the woman who was unfortunately ineligible under the old tax credit law and brought this to the attention of elected officials. And so I want to highlight her work. This is an example of what happens and how government can be responsive and how government can work for the people. Again, this is what we do here. This is why I love this county council and I love my colleagues. This is what we signed up to do, to make people's lives better, to make sure that when we can do something that we know is fair and just and really serves in the best interest of all of our community, that we move forward and do it. And so kudos to her for highlighting this to us and letting us know this is important. I want to thank all of the advocates from our support organizations that support veterans and their surviving families throughout the county. They were tremendous in terms of their support for this as well, and really want to thank you for the unanimous support on the GAO committee. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilmember Katz.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and thank you to the co-sponsor as well. It seems like this is a day of a lot of thank yous up here, and it should be. But and to the other council members and certainly my colleagues on government operations. But as Councilmember Rice said, this is something that we needed to do. This is something that we should have, if we would have had the ability to do with the state legislation earlier on, we would have done this. And I certainly believe we will do this for the disabled veterans as well. We will have to lobby our state friends to help us to get there. But I think once they realize this is an oversight, they will certainly correct that oversight. I did also want to thank, in addition to everybody else, but the Military Officers Association of America, Captain David Peterson, who's retired. But they certainly supported this. They have worked with us along the way, and they too have lobbied the state to correct what we all realized was an oversight. Thank you.
Councilmember Friedson.
Just very briefly, congratulations to the two lead sponsors. I'd asked to be a co-sponsor during committee. I'm not sure if that was too late to get in, but I think it's a terrific bill. It's a small token of what we can do for those families who have done so much for our community and our country, and I wasn't sure if that I was listed as that.
Yeah, the committee version on Circle 13 lists you as a co-sponsor.
Can you move your microphone so we can hear you thinking?
Yes.
So I got it in under the wire is what you're saying.
Of the bill, which
Great.
is on Circle 13
I appreciate that. And on an unrelated note, I had to step out for the consent calendar, but I'd like to be listed in the affirmative on the consent calendar as a vote. Thanks.
Very good. All right. I don't see any other lights, so this is also a roll call vote.
Ms. Navarro?
Yes.
May I just wanted to interject one thing just to start getting the word out, which is this is an expedited bill, and it actually is effective for this tax year that started on July 1st. The application deadline is October 1.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So this is a roll call vote.
Mr. Glass?
Yes.
Mr. Glass votes yes. Mr. Jawando?
Yes.
Mr. Jawando votes yes. Mr. Hucker?
Yes.
Mr. Hucker votes yes. Mr. Reamer?
Yes.
Mr. Reamer votes yes. Mr. Albornoz?
Yes.
Mr. Albornoz votes yes. Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Mr. Rice votes yes. Mr. Friedson?
Yes.
Mr. Friedson votes yes. Mr. Katz?
Yes.
Mr. Katz votes yes. Ms. Navarro?
Yes.
Ms. Navarro votes yes.
That's unanimous. Thank you so much. Okay, so now on to item 5D. This is Bill 13-19, County Property Disposition Reuse Analysis. The GO Committee recommends approval. And this particular bill was, the lead sponsor is Councilmember Albornoz, and is co-sponsored by myself, Council Vice President Katz, Reamer, Hucker, and Glass. GO held a work session on July 25th. There are changes, there are references to public agencies, to county departments, and outside agencies. Clarifies which agencies exactly the law is referring to. County departments, any department office within the executive branch of Montgomery County government. Outside agencies include HOC, MNC, PPC, MCM, CPS, Revenue Authority, WSSC, and municipalities located in Montgomery County. Also specifies that the comparative analysis of reuse proposals required by law are a part of the package that the executive must submit to the council for review. Also specifies instances under which the council may disapprove of the executive's declaration of no further need. And that if there is further need for the property, if a county department or outside agency has expressed need, if approval of the declaration is contrary to the public's interest. There are also some formatting changes, and we had a very good conversation about the importance, number one, of this particular law of property disposition. As everybody recalls, we didn't have this law, and it was so critical that the council have an opportunity also to chime in. But no doubt, many times, I would say all the time, one of the key questions has been, what will the property be used for? And also, you know, if there are uses that could be considered. And that's why this is a very important bill. So with that, we did adopt the bill 3-0. Let me turn it over to Councilmember Albornoz, who is the lead sponsor.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, members of the GO Committee, for supporting this unanimously, and all of my colleagues who have co-sponsored this bill. And I do want to acknowledge and thank the executive branch as well for being such great partners in supporting this bill. I want to acknowledge the previous council who did a great job, and my colleagues who were here on the dais and supported that bill, because as I have since learned, the council has a unique perch. It does have the ability to see the entire county from a variety of different sectors, and we know how precious our land is in the county and our properties in the county, and how we must leverage that as best we can. And so this bill adds another layer of transparency. It also gives the council further ability to see what our sister county agencies potentially have in mind with regards to this bill. I want to thank council staff and my staff as well for putting this together, and I look forward to voting on my first bill.
All right. Awesome. Councilmember Hooker.
I just want to congratulate my colleague for his leadership on this. I think this should have happened with the disposition of the old Silver Spring Library. I think it would have avoided some anxiety in that case, and I was looking at putting in a very similar bill. So I think it's a work of legislative genius, and I applaud your leadership on it, and I look forward to voting for your first bill as well.
This is a very interesting day.
What a great thank you that
Councilmember Reamer. The thank yous keep coming.
Congratulations to the councilmember for his first bill. I know that his inside view of this process as a department director really contributed a lot to his knowledge of the importance of this issue, and I'm really happy that he proposed this. It's an ongoing issue. You know, there's a whole discussion right now about the Veers Mill corridor sector plan and the property that the council called for in the Alpine View area to be disposed to support affordable housing. There's a lot of comments going back and forth in the media. I think having transparency in these situations is absolutely essential, and I think this legislation will strengthen our hand to understand what's really going on there and making sure that the council's objectives are being achieved as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Friedson.
I just want the record to reflect that neither in the first bill that I passed as a sponsor or the second bill that I passed today was I ever referred to as a legislative genius, but I'm still working on it. I echo it, both the action and the actor, a legislative genius.
There you go. All right, I don't see any other lights after that comment. So
we call you a legislative official.
Let me comment on his comment.
This is a roll call vote.
Can't take the honorable away.
Mr. Glass.
Yes.
Mr. Glass votes yes. Mr. Jawando?
Yes.
Mr. Jawando votes yes. Mr. Hucker? Yes. Mr. Hucker votes yes. Mr. Reamer? Yes. Mr. Reamer votes yes. Mr. Albornoz? Yes. Mr. Albornoz votes yes. Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Mr. Rice votes yes. Mr. Friedson? Yes. Mr. Friedson votes yes. Mr. Katz?
Yes.
Mr. Katz votes yes. Ms. Navarro?
Yes.
Ms. Navarro votes yes.
And that is unanimous. All right. Okay, so now we're on to item 6. This is an action item, and this is an appointment. This is the appointment of Inspector General. So let me start with Councilmember Katz. You have a motion? Do you want to make?
I do. Thank you very much, Madam President. I would like to make the motion. In fact, I'm honored to make the motion that we appoint Megan Lamarzi, the Inspector General for the county. As some of you might remember, she's actually the clerk of the council right now, and we heard from many people. We heard from a citizens panel. We heard who's made recommendations. And candidly, the recommendations that were made were all very fine and made us all have great discussions on who we thought would be the person that we thought would be replacing a very fine Inspector General right now, Ed Blanchett. Megan will certainly have a difficult act to follow, but I believe that she will certainly be able to do a wonderful job. And it's my pride and my pleasure to make the motion for her appointment.
Is there a second?
I proudly second that motion.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded. I think before we vote, I just want to thank Ms. Lamarzi. She started the role as clerk just over 18 months ago and has been extraordinary. and helping us do our work, which is no easy task, given that there are 9 of us and there's plenty to do, and sometimes things can be planned and scheduled, and sometimes you have to just roll with the punches and go with the flow. And I, in my role as president, have really relied on the extraordinary organizational skills and strategic vision that Megan has put forth, and I have felt very supported. So I really do want to thank you. And I think it is very important to point out that, Ms. Lamarzi came to help us through a very important transition, and we were relying on her so heavily. But it is interesting to look at reasons why she blew us out of the water when we did the interview, which it's important also to note that we had a panel, an independent panel, that sent us high qualified candidates. And I just want to mention a few things. Let's see, she actually worked as an Inspector General for the Maryland Department of Health. Ms. Lamarzi also has been there. She oversaw a staff of 60 auditors, investigators, and healthcare professionals. She supervised the department's corporate compliance programs, audit functions, and accountability efforts. She directed and reviewed audits and investigations into suspected healthcare fraud within Medicaid programs. Ms. Lamarzi, prior to serving in the Department of Health, she spent more than a decade as the prosecutor at the state and local levels. She also served in several roles at the Maryland Attorney General's office, including the Deputy Director of the Criminal Division and as the Chief of Economic Crimes Unit that included supervising and working with investigative auditors, Maryland State Troopers, and support personnel. She's led criminal section of the Medicaid Fraud Control Unit that included teams of attorneys, investigators, auditors, and staff. During her tenure, she led grand jury investigations, auditors, and staff. And then she also prosecuted felony and misdemeanor financial crimes such as theft, procurement fraud, tax fraud, mortgage fraud, securities fraud, Medicaid fraud, bribery, and embezzlement. She, moreover, has served as an assistant state's attorney in the Montgomery County State's Attorney's Office for nearly 4 years. She is a member of the Maryland Bar and earned her law degree from the University of Maryland School of Law. And she received her Bachelor's of Arts degree from the University of Maryland in College Park. You can just tell by this extraordinary track record that this is the person that is the right person, I think, in this particular moment in time for Montgomery County. And it's also a historic moment because she's the first woman to serve as Inspector General in Montgomery County. So this is a very exciting moment for all of us and for me personally. So with that, let me double check what she's written on my agenda. Is this a roll call or is this hands? And it looks like it's hands. So with that, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Congratulations, Megan. Anything you'd like to say?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I have loved my experience here at the council and getting to work with all of you, and I am really looking forward to continuing to serve the county and bring some new ideas to an already very well-established office. So thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you. And of course, we want to also publicly thank Mr. Blanstead for all his years of service to the county. He has, I think, set us very well, and now you can follow in his footsteps and keep doing the great work there. All right, so there is one more action here that we have to take. It's item 6.5. This is acting clerk. And I think that, is it Mr. Drummer? You're going to walk us through this particular item.
Yeah, this is the downside of you appointing
Yes, it is.
Ms. Lamarzi as the Inspector General, is she'd be leaving. I thought maybe she could do both, but she said
I think
no.
she could.
was.
I think she could.
She was going to go off and be the Inspector General. So the recruitment for a new clerk is going to take some time. It's a position in the merit system. We will go through the merit system and do a full recruitment, as we did when we appointed Ms. Lamarzi. But in the meantime, council staff recommends that you appoint an acting clerk, and we recommend that you appoint current deputy clerk, Mary Ann Paradise, as the acting clerk until a new clerk is chosen. And that would be effective September 1st, which is the first day Ms. Lamarzi will be the Inspector General.
All right, is there a motion? Moved by Councilmember Reamer, second by Councilmember Rice. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. Congratulations, Ms. Paradise. We look forward to working with you. Hopefully you know what you just got yourself into, but, but we do look forward to working with you. Thank you so much. Okay, now on to item number 7, and this is an interview. This is the county executive's appointee as Director of the Department of Housing and Community Affairs, Mr. Asim Nigam. All right.
Hopefully this is not a letter of resignation.
Oh, my goodness, I hope not.
No.
It's her first investigation. Is her name Sydney Katz? It could get way worse.
She had this in her back
A new
pocket.
subpoena. Great, that's nice.
Oh, my gosh. All right.
That's the word I was looking for.
All right. Mr. Nigam, welcome. We are going to engage in a conversation with you, and we do have some prepared questions that I will go over, and then we'll have a conversation. But first, let me turn it over to Mr. Klein for any remarks that you'd like to make regarding this appointment.
Great. Good morning, Council President Navarro, members of the Council. I'm Andrew Klein, Chief Administrative Officer. Our nominees for DHCA Director and Deputy Director reflect the County Executive's priority to finance, produce, and preserve affordable housing, and in particular focus on low-income home buyers and renters. Mr. Nigam brings wide-ranging experience in financing and developing market-rate and affordable housing and managing large housing grant programs. He also brings strong executive leadership with experience in strategic planning, business process improvement, research, and media relations. Our nominee for Deputy Director of DHCA, Frank Demaray, who you will interview this afternoon, is also a housing finance expert, and his experience as a nonprofit lender and provider of direct client support, including to people moving from homelessness, complements Mr. Nigam. And with that, I will hand it back to the Council President for questions.
All right. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Start with a very general question. What specific experience in your background has prepared you to take up this new role as the Director of Housing and Community Development, and why do you want to come to Montgomery County and execute this particular office?
Let me take the last part of your question first, why I want to come to Montgomery County. I'm a Montgomery County resident, and I'll be showing my age here. 30 years ago, I started my career as a summer intern with Department of Parks in Montgomery County. So it looks like I've been a long sabbatical. It's time to come back home and serve the county where I live. In terms of the first part of your question, for the past 27 years, I have had experience in community development, including affordable housing, serving special needs housing, including folks coming out of domestic violence, small business development, job creation, monitoring and compliance, neighborhood revitalization. During the past 15 years, as with Fairfax County, where I'm still currently employed, I have been working as the Director for Research Finance and Grants Management. So I manage all of county funds, what we call in Montgomery County as housing initiative funds, we call housing blueprint funds in Fairfax County. I manage their federal grants, CDBG Home, HOPWA, ESG. I have managed their affordable dwelling unit program. I was involved with their home ownership programs as well. I've get involved with redevelopment of county-owned land, including and but not limited to mixed-use housing, mixed-income housing. So while we are serving folks at 60, 80, or 100% of AMI, especially in Tyson's Corner area, the thrust in Fairfax County is to serve low-income population, especially who are earning at below 50% of AMI. So we have used specific techniques. In fact, I have used specific techniques a few years ago, which was embraced by the State Housing Finance Agency as a model to help mitigate the use of the tax credits in affordable housing transactions, to basically leverage those credits with other types of financing. And that has been used as a model elsewhere. Very recently, I was involved with the Affordable Housing Resource Panel. The Board of Supervisors in Fairfax County gave us the direction to come up with a goal in terms of how to create 15,000 units over the next 15 years. So we met with different stakeholders, nonprofit, for-profit entities, faith-based communities, community activists, and we came up with a goal with a floor of 5,000 units, and then ultimately our overarching goal is to create 15,000. And how we get there, besides creating new avenues in terms of soft financing from the county, which is analogous to Housing Investment Fund, we came up with a menu of options. Because one size doesn't fit all, but there are menu of options in terms of tax increment financing, government resources, abandoned school buildings, redevelopment of those sites, transfer of development rights, air rights, zoning regulations, parking restrictions. So everything will be looked at so that we can preserve, not only preserve, but also create 15,000 new units. So the county board of supervisors came up with a philosophy of no net loss of affordable housing. So we're going to preserve whatever we have, and then we're going to create additional 15,000 units. So what brings me together here? So in terms of my experience and the different techniques that I have used, those experiences and techniques can be replicated in Montgomery County. Of course, each county is different. I see Fairfax County and Montgomery County as sister counties with similar challenges. But then challenges, provide opportunities as well. Our ultimate goal is to create healthy neighborhoods. Everyone has a right to seek decent, safe, and affordable housing, and that's what we strive for, and that's what I will strive for in Montgomery County as well. We need to make our processes which are fair to everyone, whether they are folks coming to Montgomery County within the United States or outside of the United States. Everyone should have an equal chance, and that's what will be my goal in this position. So I thank Mark Ehrlich administration for nominating me, showing their faith in me in leading GHCA, and I'm sure I have great staff over there, and I'm sure some of them will be watching. Just to add, my wife and son, they are sitting right behind me. They wanted to come and see this hearing themselves. My son is a rising senior, so it will be a good experience for him how the local county works. But coming back to your question, what I want to do ultimately is use my experiences and initiatives that I have used in Fairfax County beautifully. It's not that we have solved the problem of affordable housing or community development in Fairfax County. We're still getting there. But there is a will from the Board of Supervisors, which we really appreciate, and they're putting their resources where the will is. And that's what I see in Montgomery County. We have great county over here, great residents, great county council, great administration. We can work as a team to further community development in Montgomery County.
What do you see as the most promising strategies for preserving existing affordable housing?
I may have answered this question within my previous question. There's no magic bullet of a super duper strategy for any county. What may work for Fairfax or City of Alexandria, Arlington may or may not work for Montgomery County. That being said, we have to throw everything in the kitchen sink. So whether it's local and state resources, federal resources, working with our nonprofit, for-profit entities, how we negotiate our transactions, looking at county's land, looking at different avenues, how we can make things work in terms of affordable housing and mixed income housing. And quite frankly, we need to look at our stakeholders, which includes the training part as well, looking at tenant rights, that they are aware of what their rights are. Our landlords know what their rights are, that they need, and they have a obligation to provide decent, safe, and whether it's affordable or marketed housing, decent and safe housing to our residents. So I see this as a potpourri of different avenues and strategies that we need to use to do community development in any jurisdiction. And that's what I will be looking at in Montgomery County.
So the Fairfax County Redevelopment and Housing Authority adopted the One Fairfax resolution here in Montgomery County. We're working to adopt a racial equity and social justice legislation. Hopefully we'll be done with that in December. I know in Minneapolis, for example, what really prompted them to eliminate the single family house zoning was this. It started with a look at racial equity issues that they had there. What lessons have you learned in Fairfax County that you think may be able to be applied here as it relates to this issue of racial equity and social justice and housing?
The short answer is we are still working on the implementation of the plan. In 2017, Fairfax County and the school board adopted One Fairfax policy, and the FCRHA adopted it subsequently. Fairfax County embraces diverse population, and they see that as a tremendous asset. That being said, they also understand that social and racial inequalities still exist. So to take care of those, we need to come up with a framework which includes community engagement, training and capacity building, and having a dialogue in terms of what action we need to take to make our programs which are fair to everyone. Just to give you an example, although we are still working on the implementation plan as we speak, and it may take a few more months before a draft is ready, before the next board of supervisors come in, and we will still continue to work on a plan with an outside consultant, but we are looking at places of opportunities where it's hard to develop housing, places like Tysons, Merrifield, and Reston area. And then if we were to replicate something like this in Montgomery County, we need to make sure that the low-income families have access to capital and wealth creation. So whatever plan we come up with, we need to make sure that we are putting our residents on a path of success. And I'll be happy to share with you more details as the implementation plan is worked out.
Thank you. I can tell you that this council is going to be engaging in robust conversations about the amended targets that the Council of Governments has put forth regionally in terms of housing targets. I know Fairfax County, you just mentioned some numbers. Those are going to be modified, obviously, because there's a recognition that we need a lot more. How will you work with the council? Because I know we will be very busy ensuring that we can also meet those targets. What would be your strategy to work with the council in order to achieve those modified targets that have been set forth by the Council of Governments?
One thing that I will do is, after coming on board, I'm going to have, I know that I met with some of you, but I'm going to meet with each one of you on a one-on-one basis, know what your preferences are and your priorities are, and know what the different target areas you want to focus on. And collectively, as a team, we'll work together on a plan which serves our county residents the most beneficial way.
Have you had any opportunity to review some of the things that we have done already? I mean, this council has been very busy, obviously, and putting forth particular zoning changes. Also, we just, of course, adopted, the ZTA for ADUs. These are all, as you said earlier, part of the kitchen sink tools, but obviously we're going to be relying on your expertise to get us to meet those goals set forth by the Council of Governments in terms of affordable housing, and specifically they have identified this issue of affordability as being the priority around economic activity centers. So have you taken a look at those Council of Governments conversations at all?
I've
and
looked at
reacted to any of that?
I've looked at some of those conversations, and I have had meetings with the administration and not too long ago on some of the initiatives, including the ADU accessory dwelling unit programs and what have you. So I'm bringing myself to the speed as we speak. Once I get confirmed, I'm a quick learner, so anything that I need to learn, I will learn fairly quickly.
I appreciate that because there is the goal is very ambitious, and I personally am a member of the board of COG and also a member of the housing work group, and I'm not, it's not lost on me that this issue of housing is going to be pivotal for us to move forward in our economic development goals. And it seems that Fairfax County, as well as Prince George's County, are actively looking very carefully at how they're going to achieve this. And so your position is very important for us as we try to be very aggressive on how to position ourselves as well regionally. So I do appreciate your willingness to learn quickly and get us going. Another question that I have is an important part of the Department of Housing and Community Affairs. It's its work to support existing communities, including helping residents improve their homes and revitalize community assets. What is your experience with this type of community engagement and support? What can you share with us in terms of what you've looked at, who we are in Montgomery County, and how would you put forth that kind of community engagement to ensure that residents can be advocates for their own, housing?
Sure. I can tell you what I've been involved with Fairfax County. In Fairfax County, we had, and we're using the past tense because we had to suspend the program because of the cuts in CDBG funds, but we had the HILP program, which is called Home Improvement Loan Program, where we made low-interest loans to county residents to take care of their homes, whether they had to connect their homes to the county water and sewer line and what have you. Then we also used our CDBG funds to help residents during Huntington flood insurance issue. So although HELP program was suspended because of the cuts in CDBG funds, the county does have a robust home repairs for the elderly program, including serving our populations which are physically challenged. And that program has gone gangbusters over the last several years. What we do is, out of CDBG funds, we provide monies for the salaries for the staff, and then the county provides funds in the amount of $500 on a per homeowner basis, plus 1 week of free labor. So we are able to help our elderly plus special needs population through this program. And then the county also, way back when, came up with 9 conservation areas. These were the areas which had seen disinvestment. So we used our CDBG funds for streetscaping, facade improvement, etc.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts on, for example, how to strengthen the department's capacity to engage communities that perhaps don't speak English very well? As you know, we have over 35% of our population is foreign-born. In Montgomery County Public Schools, there are, more than 160 languages spoken, and many times these are communities that don't have as much, presence in terms of doing advocacy for themselves. Do you have any experience in terms of engaging such diverse populations?
Let me answer your question this way. I'm a success immigrant story myself. I know what the immigrants face when they come to this great country. And if your language is not English as the primary language, then you're at a loss coming in and how to explain what you really need. So as part of our program, different programs, federal, especially as a requirement, the federal programs, we make our publications available in different languages. We do marketing in certain areas, whether it's Annandale, where we have predominantly, Korean population, or elsewhere, we reach out to those communities through our marketing material, and then we have, meetings with them on a regular basis to see, and we work very closely with the supervisor's office. We get cues from them as well that if what they are hearing, and if there's a need, then we go back and address those issues with the community.
Great. As an immigrant myself, I also appreciate that response and can share with you that there is no doubt that we have quite a bit of a need, especially in this area of housing, to do that kind of outreach. Are there any potential conflicts of interest of which we should be aware?
I'm not aware of any conflict of interest.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let me open it up to my colleagues for conversation. Councilmember Reamer.
Thank you. Appreciated that line of questioning. Mr. Nagam, thank you for being with us today, and compliments to the executive branch. Wanted to ask just a few questions on a few different issues. First of all, I appreciate your salute to the staff at DHCA. I know it's been a time of transition for them, and I know you follow the department as a resident of the county. You know the work of DHCA. This week, or last week, we celebrated $102.3 million of financing that we got out the door. That was the culmination of a lot of deals that were lined up over several years, but it was quite an achievement, I think, and it speaks to the resources, the staff resources that you'll have there to support the mission of the department, and whether it's code enforcement or community development or housing financing. There are very, very knowledgeable people there, and you will, I know you will seek their counsel and engage them with the expertise, on their expertise. I was happy to hear your comments about the, I know you only really touched on it, but you've addressed this issue in the past about the transparency of the Housing Initiative Fund. That's a topic that I'm also very interested in. I'm really glad you raised that, and I intend for the Fed committee to take that issue up, or broadly the Housing Initiative Fund, in September. And let's learn more about what best practices there are. I know you'll be able to help us understand that, as well as exploring issues like how to ensure that our pilots are sufficient for development to produce new affordable housing, or that we have a constant request from the executive, from your department, from the executive branch, from the county executive for new financing to support the production of new affordable housing. You know, we had a bit of a disagreement this year in the budget about financing for affordable housing. The council added funds because we felt like we just wanted to ensure that there was sufficient resources there to create new funds, and we don't want you to be shy in asking for those funds. I think overall, there's some of us are concerned that the production of new affordable housing may slow, and we don't want to see that happen. So we'll be looking to you as a vigorous leader of the department to keep up the pace. I wanted to ask about a general issue. There's been a lot of discussion about the availability of housing at different income levels in the county, and the question of whether there's essentially an oversupply of housing at the middle band, and whether that oversupply means that there isn't really a need for new development. Can you just comment on your perception of the housing market here, and to what extent there is a shortage at any particular income levels that you may perceive?
Sure. When it comes to housing supply, the housing supply is short by itself, and it's not just in affordable housing. And what I firmly believe in, we need to reach out to individuals and families along all income spectrum for the county to achieve full development potential. And that's what we are focusing on in Fairfax County, and I see Montgomery County as no different. The issues are the same. Land cost is the major common denominator, which is so expensive. Now, in terms of creating new opportunities, we do need to keep up with the new demand. That being said, we need to make sure that there's no net loss of affordable housing. We need to preserve whatever we have in hand right now, and then also see how we can serve. If we're creating a mixed income community, maybe the higher income rents can subsidize the lower income rents. And that's the model we are following in Fairfax County, including Tyson's Corner area, where land is a lot more expensive than elsewhere in Fairfax County. So our marching orders are, we need to serve everyone in the mix, but our main goal is to serve lower income population, because if you look at Fairfax County, one bedroom, the average rent is about $1,700. The average salary of a teacher is about $47,000, $48,000. That means a teacher has to work for at least 6-7 years before he or she can afford one bedroom unit. One thing which I failed to mention to you, I was also involved in magnet housing. We call it magnet housing. We borrowed that word from magnet schools. So we created housing for school teachers, bus drivers, nurses, policemen, paramedics. Because if you are coming out of any of these, work classes, you're not able to afford or, the rent in the county where you work. So we came up with those programs. So as a whole, we need to make sure that if we are serving higher income folks, then there's an avenue, and that's part of the negotiation which we negotiate. We negotiate to the nth degree with our developers. And I must tell you, I don't mince my words when I start negotiating with our developers. And we have been successful. We get to the finish line. Ultimately, we find a fine balance where everyone is happy, but then we need to make sure that we are serving population at all income levels.
Thank you. I heard you say that you believe there's a shortage in the housing market overall and that it applies really at every level. And I certainly concur with that. And I'm glad you've raised this issue of no net loss. I think that's really the way for us to think about how we respond to the different challenges in the county to preserve affordable housing. And often preservation is the most cost-effective way, as you said, to create or retain affordable housing is through preservation techniques, but often it's also through new development and getting those MPDU units or even more in the deal for new development. As you said, if the county government isn't negotiating on behalf of lower-income residents, then no one will. At the same time, it's a negotiation where we're leveraging new development to get new affordable housing. So I wondered if you could talk about height and density and whether these are part of a negotiation strategy in a no net loss formula.
Sure. And we use both of those aspects beautifully in Fairfax County. When a developer comes to us and they're working on the proffers with DPZ, Department of Planning and Zoning Administration, those bonus density and the height is a part of the overall negotiations in terms of how many ADUs or WDUs, workforce dwelling units, will be created. And based on those negotiations, we decide how many people will be served at what income levels. So part of the negotiations happen at the front end when the developer comes with a proposal to the zoning office, and we work with the DPZ office hand in hand in terms of looking at those proffers. We work with them in terms of what AMI levels will be served before anything is agreed upon. So that's what I will be looking at in Montgomery County as well, because the process, I'm sure, is not much different in terms of negotiations with our developers.
Good. I'm comforted by your answers. Thank you. I look forward to your bringing your know-how and to implementing the same aggressive vision of preserving affordable housing, but creating new housing with affordable housing in it as well. And I think all of those pieces are an essential part of the toolkit.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Jawando.
Thank you, Council President, and Mr. Nigam, congratulations on your interview and to the appointment to the CEO and the county executive. I enjoyed our meeting. I referred to it as speed dating. I had you and your colleague back to back, but it was a good session. And hello to your family, and I know congratulations to you. picking up where Councilman Reamer left off, I really loved your quote. I wrote it down. I don't mince my words when negotiating with developers. I think that's exactly what we need. Prior to running for this office and as I'm in the seat, I think we need strong negotiators. And when you have strong negotiation, you get better outcomes. And so I'm glad to hear you say that. I think oftentimes it's hard to know where that line is of how far you can push and how much affordable housing you can get produced, again, because if no one's advocating for low-income residents, it's the government's job. I agree with that 100%. And so your experience and background, I think doing that in Fairfax County is going to be invaluable to the department. I did want to ask you about this concept of no net loss, which has been discussed a lot in the media and also here in the council and across the country, frankly. I think it's a good thing. I tend to believe that should be a baseline, not seen as the gold standard, but as a baseline. If we're requiring upzoning and allowing additional development, and I'd be curious about your opinion on, do you think that's a starting point, or do you think that's the end goal?
I think you've answered the question that what I was going to say, it should be the baseline. And not, the end goal. And when we redevelop our parcels, we make sure that whatever we have is not lost. We build on whatever we have. So we want to make sure that there's no net loss of current affordable housing on that site, and then we build on that. So I'm going to use it as a baseline for no net loss strategy.
Great. Well, thank you. That's great to hear. Second question, you mentioned workforce dwelling units that you've worked on. You also mentioned the magnet housing program, which I think is something we desperately need, and whether we call it that or not, but so many of our county employees and those in public safety and our police officers, our teachers, our bus drivers can't afford to live here. Is that something that you agree with me? Do you think we need that here, and would you look to pursue that and work with us to pursue that strategy? And could you, in answering that, could you explain how it worked a little bit in Fairfax?
Sure. If we look at any county or city around this region, it's very difficult to live where they work because not everyone is earning six-figure salaries. If you look at a school teacher, a bus driver, a policeman, when they're starting, their salaries are not sufficient to even support a one-bedroom unit. So in Fairfax County, we came up with this program of magnet housing, which is initially a 2-year program, and it's not set in stone. If I were to do it in Montgomery County with your views, we can have it for 3 years. So the idea here is that we are serving folks at 70% of AMI, but the rents are set at 50% of AMI. So the renter is not cost burdened in terms of paying rent. So hopefully over the next 2 years with increase in salary, the person will be able to afford another unit, and that unit can be turned over for the next person in line. Mm-hmm. So that is the whole concept here, and we have been successful in doing it.
How long have you been doing that program?
I would say, please don't quote me on this, I would say at least 10 to 12 years.
And do you have any data on people transitioning out? Are they able to purchase home? Do you have any data that it's working the way it's intended?
I may not have the exact data, but ultimately people move on to market housing. Mm-hmm. And then we have been successful. I think Montgomery County has a similar program, permanent supportive housing. Yeah. We took folks from homelessness or near homelessness to home ownership, and we helped 25 families over the period of 5 years. So ultimately the goal is the person lives in this housing for 2 years, then ultimately moves on to other housing to market rate, and as they build up their wealth, they ultimately become the homeowner.
Yeah. I appreciate that, and I look forward to working with you. I plan on supporting your nomination. I think your experience is what we need, and approaching it with a menu of options and being practical and pragmatic, I think will be very helpful. And so congratulations in advance, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hooker.
Thank you, Council President. Mr. Nigam, thanks you so much for your willingness to take on this big challenge. Really very much looking forward to the rest of the interview and hopefully working with you. You have a lot of strong qualifications that jump off the page. At the top of the list, obviously, is that you're a resident of Burtonsville.
Correct. Your district.
I hope that means you're familiar with the housing challenges of East County and the attendant economic development and transportation challenges there, and I look forward to talking to you more about that when we're not using up my colleagues' time. You have a lot of experience with financing and developing housing. Could you talk about any experience you've had to develop, any opportunity to develop experience enforcing housing maintenance standards, housing codes, and if not, how will you approach that?
Sure. As a part of managing federal grants, we are obligated to monitor our units. So I've been involved in compliance and monitoring of our federal grants. We use the same standard for our county funds. So we want to make sure that if we are providing county funds to third-party developers, that they're maintaining those units. We go out, we physically inspect those units, we do desk monitoring, we look at the tenant files, whom they're serving, to make sure that they're serving those folks who are supposed to be served. So I've been following compliance and monitoring all along in Fairfax County.
How often do those happen? Just at the time of like grant renewal or throughout the whole life of the grant?
That's the ongoing process. So it's a year-long process, and we try to keep ourselves up to date on monitoring and compliance.
Okay. Under your predecessor, DHCA was very slow to take action on problem landlords, and the council had to several times pass legislation to accelerate and create protocols to require inspections of problem properties. And Council Member Elrich, when he here served with us, and the Council President and I spent a lot of time on that legislation, and we've passed some since then as well. How will you deal with problem landlords in this job?
I know that code enforcement is a priority for the administration and is for the county council too. First and foremost, we need to educate our landlords and their tenants. We need to make sure that they understand what their rights are and what their obligations are. Then, once that happens, we need to go out and inspect those. I'm sure we have a watch list of problem landlords. We take good pride in providing decent and safe housing to our residents. That being said, there are always hiccups here and there. So from my point of view, from code enforcement side, we're going to look at those troubled properties. We're going to work with those landlords, see what the issues are, educate them, and then we should take action, whatever is appropriate, just to make sure that our residents are safe in the housing where they're living.
Okay. And things have changed dramatically at DHCA, in my view, and they've been great under Acting Director Getzinger, and I really want to make sure, if confirmed, you keep your foot on the gas in this area.
Sure.
And not let up at all. One of the challenges the county has had dealing with problem landlords and neglectful single-family property owners is that judges have often given them one extension after another to deal with code violations, or have waived or nearly negated fines that they would have been due to for violating our housing codes. So what experience do you have working with the judiciary to solve code enforcement issues?
That's something which I'll have to bring myself up to the speed on with the administration and look at the code enforcement regulations to see, because it should be fair to everyone. Whether you are earning at 30%, or you are formerly homeless person, or you are earning at 120% of AMI. The regulations and the laws are the same, should be the same for everyone. So I'm going to bring myself to the speed on those issues.
Okay, that's a vexing challenge, and I look forward to working with you and the county and probably the state's attorney in this matter, because we haven't solved that problem yet at all. What role do you think vacant and blighted properties play in the affordable housing crisis, and how will you crack down on those types of properties?
blighted properties is an issue everywhere, in Fairfax County too. And we have previously used our CDBG funds to take care of the blight, which is one of the national objectives in using CDBG funds. And that's something, because when you have blighted property in any neighborhood, blight attracts more blight. And we need to make sure that if there is a blighted property, we need to see what the underlying issue is. If simply abandoned property, then what our regulations say in terms of enforcement, or if there's an education piece that needs to go on with the homeowner or the landlord, we need to continue with that aspect as well and see what our best line of action is going to be on the blighted property.
I know that Fairfax has that home repair for the elderly program. How is that financed? And how well do you think it works?
It works beautifully. We finance the salaries of the employees through CDBG funds, and the county funds from general fund $500 per homeowner. So it's a marriage between two types of funds, federal funds and then local funds. And our board of supervisors, they just love that program. It's highly successful in meeting the needs of the elderly and the special needs population.
Okay, thank you. And you began in the previous question talking about the need to educate tenants about their rights. Almost 40% of our residents are tenants. What do you think DHCA should be doing more to protect renters' rights? And also, if confirmed, how will you work with our Renters Alliance, CASA, AIM, that work to organize tenants? How will you work with individual tenant associations? How will you work with our other nonprofit partners to strengthen the hand of our tenants?
From my point of view, it's going to be a teamwork. I'm going to work with all of the community activists, all of the associations, and we need to educate our tenants. So whether a tenant has been living here or is moving outside of the country, doesn't know what the rights are, we need to make sure that they understand what their rights are first, and then also work as a team with different associations to make sure that the marketing and education piece keeps on going. Because one thing that we rely and heavily rely in Fairfax County is our nonprofits. They're doing God's work. We rely on them not just to provide a roof on someone's head, but also to provide services. So whether it's planning, education, hand-holding with the tenants, that's where they're doing the best job anyone can do. And that's what I will be looking at. If I get confirmed, I'll be working with our nonprofits and other interest groups hand in hand to make sure that our tenants' rights are protected. I know that the council passed tenants protection law regulation recently. So I know what the priorities are for the council, and the same are the priorities for the administration as well.
Terrific. Thank you for those answers. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilmember Rice.
Thank you very much, Madam President. So, Mr. Nagam, thank you so much for your interest in this position. I'm very happy to see someone from the county who's coming into leadership. That's always important, being born and raised here, who knows the county and knows what we're about. So I have a couple questions for you. I was at an Interfaith Works breakfast with our county executive some months ago, to where the county executive said that he didn't want to focus on new development anymore, and he wanted to only solely focus on what's happening with preserving existing housing. I know that's something that's very different from the stance in Fairfax, to where you have robust and aggressive development that happens. And let me supplement that with a story. My wife and I, who started off when we got married in an apartment in Rockville. And then when she got pregnant, we said, wait a minute, this unit's not going to be big enough for us anymore. And so then we shopped around to what was affordable in my home county, where I was born and raised, and the only place we could afford was a 3-bedroom condo that looks like a townhouse, sound like a townhouse in Germantown. And so we moved there to new development, brand new development at Germantown Town Center. And we bought that unit, and then after my wife got pregnant with our second daughter, we said, this unit's not going to be big enough for us any longer. and we moved to the single-family home where we are right now in Germantown as well. And I say that because I think that oftentimes when we think about and talk about affordable housing, what we always talk about is the very, very lowest rung, and we don't talk about folks who are struggling young professionals. And, you know, when we talk about our millennial generation, when we talk about folks that are here, my wife was a hairstylist and worked at Hair Cuttery when we first got married. And so wasn't pulling a lot of money. I was a young professional working with Marriott Hotels. Again, not some huge salary. And so when you talk about teachers and you talk about, you know, firefighters and all those kinds of things, there are plenty of other professions that are out there that do the exact same thing. And I know, so it's one in which when it comes to all of us, what's your stance when it comes to ensuring that the places like my wife and I were able to purchase when we first moved to Germantown will still be there for them, and we won't then be forced or stuck in those rental units and not be able to expand for our families? So I'd like for you to just address that one first.
When it comes to affordable housing, even if you're serving someone at 60% of AMI, you need to have a job to pay that rent. That being said, as I mentioned earlier, if we want the county to achieve full development potential, we need to serve individuals and families at all income spectrum, whether it's 30%, 40%, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100. That being said, there is always a balance that you need to find, that given government resources which are finite, where you want to put your most emphasis on. So if you want to leverage housing for 80 or 100% of AMI folks, or 70% AMI folks, then maybe in that mix, as a part of give and take and negotiations, you can serve people at lower income levels. So we can create mixed income communities so that no one can say, that's the low-income housing community. Everyone has a right to live wherever they want to live, and that's what we are striving for in Fairfax County, especially in areas like Great Falls, McLean. We want to create opportunities for people in those areas as well, so that it's not that we have concentrated affordable housing around Route 1 corridor. We want to create opportunities for everyone.
That's a great answer, and it brings about the second part, because when I look at an area that I represent like Montgomery Village, an area to where we have a large concentration of lower income housing, so much so that our Housing Opportunities Commission actually ended up buying and taking over Cider Mill Apartments, an area that had a management company that was not listening to its residents about the concerns that it had about its truly the definition of a blighted community that was plagued with crime as well as rodent and pest infestation, and one in which, again, if we kept things the way they are, would not have changed for those individuals. And it really is one where I think that, again, there needs to be a balance. And I hope that as a part of this executive administration, you can impart on the county executive that the conversations need to be a balanced conversation and approach. One that talks about the preservation of existing housing in some instances, but what we don't want to do is make sure that we're sentencing a lot of our lower income folks to have to live in these types of conditions, knowing that management will not invest because they're not getting the same types of rents as they are in other areas. We know that's a challenge throughout the nation, not just something that's unique to Montgomery County, and so that's incredibly important. I would ask you one last question. So when it comes to that condo townhome that we moved from, the family who came in behind us was a young couple, and so who was looking to start a family as well. And so from that perspective, it's the cycle that you mentioned as a part of that magnet housing, and it's something that I think we're missing in terms of the conversation. People are aspiring to move up, and they're aspiring to continue their journeys. And as my wife and I now are reaching to where we're looking at our final home and looking at somebody's going to be looking at that house that we have now that's been our house for 14 years. it really is something where, again, we can't forget about that cycle of turnover that happens as well. And so when we talk about preservation of affordable housing, the reality is that people will step up through those rungs of housing also. And we can't forget about that. I'm by no means rich. My income and my family's income is public knowledge. And so from that perspective, it's one in which, again, for us, it's one in which I think we don't do a good job of talking about all the stories of all the people who continue to struggle to afford to live here in Montgomery County. It's at multitude of levels, not just at low income. And there are a lot of people who are talking about this missing middle, talking about what needs to happen around folks really understanding about everyone that should be able to live and afford to live here in various places throughout the county. And it's one in which I hope that if you're confirmed with this position, which I assume you will be, that you take on in terms of changing the paradigm in the conversation beyond, oh, it's just about rent. And it's just about rental units when it comes to affordability, because that's not what it's about. And it really is one in which a lot of places in this county, it's actually cheaper for you to be able to have a house than it is to try and rent. And we can do that and provide those opportunities for folks because of the myriad of needs that they have and the wants that they have, especially when it comes to our special needs community, one in which an apartment may not work for them. And they really need to have some sort of a housing structure. So I say all this because I heard what you said and heard your views. I'm not sure if they're directly aligned with where the county executive is, and so I give the county executive credit for nominating someone like you who is a little bit different in terms of where your focus is going to be. I just hope that that sticks and that you work with us in terms of ensuring that we're talking about all of our residents here, and we have to have a multitude of options that are presented to our constituents here in Montgomery County, not just a one-size-fits-all approach. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Albornoz.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Nagam, I didn't have the opportunity to meet with you before this session, but I'm very impressed by your resume. So appreciate your family coming and attending this hearing, and have really appreciated your thoughtful responses to my colleagues' questions. And I associate myself with all the comments that my colleagues have made thus far. As a former department head, I have a couple of different lines of questions that I want to ask you. If you could talk a little bit about what your plan is for staff development and training. You are inheriting a great team, no question, but one that, as with all departments in county government, can at times feel overwhelmed by the need and the scope of the work. So could you talk a little bit about best practices within Fairfax that you hope to implement here to help better support and train the staff within the department?
In terms of staff is my asset here. And I know that I will be inheriting a great staff at DHCA. Now, in terms of my current staff development, we always look at what the needs are for someone to do their job right. So, and we are fortunate enough that we are in the backyard of several federal agencies, and a lot of staff development and training are basically for nominal, either they are free or it's a nominal charge. We make sure that our staff is up to the speed on the regulations, whether it's sending them to in-house training or webinars, or whether HUD is doing some training. We basically look at what the needs of that person is in terms of doing their job right, and come up with a plan that, if we want that employee to be successful, have we provided the right tools to that employee to be successful? Because one thing that I administer, with the responsibility comes accountability. So if we are giving someone a responsibility, we want to make sure that the person is up to the speed on doing that job, has the right tools to do that job, and then be able to hold that person responsible. So I will be looking at my staff responsibilities and then where they are in terms of the training needs. And then, of course, there's a finite resources in terms of the funds. So we always go for the low-hanging fruit. Since a lot of federal agencies have great training programs, I encourage my staff to use those opportunities and to educate others too in the agency. It's not that the person just goes and, yeah, I learned something. Share that training with others so that others come up to the speed too in terms of what they learned.
Great, I appreciate that. I think staff development is so important, and you can never invest enough in your team, so encouraged by your response there. I want to pick up on where my colleague, Councilmember Hucker, was discussing with regards to code enforcement. Several of my colleagues and I did a walking tour of the New Hampshire Estates apartments, and unfortunately, not an exception to the rule. There are numerous challenged and problem properties, but we saw kids playing next to dead rats. We saw overflowing trash cans. We saw exposed electrical outlets that were clearly in violation of code. And to DHCA's credit, they followed up and have been aware of some of the ongoing challenges there for quite some time. I chair the Health and Human Services Committee, and what we saw there in some of our other problem areas translates to a public health issue. And so clearly we have to tackle this aggressively. Do you support, we've recently added staff to DHCA to look at code enforcement. Do you support looking at the hours of those particular staff members to expand them to include weekend and evening hours so that there's almost a shift differential, so that when we can look to see where there is potential code enforcement issues, but during times where there may actually be code issues?
Basically, we'll have to look at the balanced approach, and of course have to look at the budget, work with DMB, Department of Management and Budget, to see if there is a way that we can pay for those hours. So I'll be looking at those resources to see what is the best practice that we can follow in order to provide some coverage over the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always a resource issue over there.
There is. The good news is, well, unfortunately, because of some challenges with human resources, there are a number of vacancies across all of county government right now. And I think as you look at filling those vacancies, you can establish those hours on the front end, and clearly it is a potential budgetary issue. But with the new positions we've recently added, I think there's a unique opportunity for you to look at that. We did that within the Department of Recreation while I was there. So just something to follow up on and look at and explore, and I would appreciate that. And so I'll end with this. We do have an incredibly diverse community in so many different ways. But because of the vulnerabilities right now, in large part because of what's happening with our federal system and the rhetoric that we're hearing, there's great reluctance to come forward when there is an issue. And so I think proactively reaching our community is going to be important. I hope you don't spend a lot of time behind your desk. I hope you're out in the community often, because that will be important for people to see you and to see that kind of leadership. So look forward to supporting your nomination, and thank you for being here today and your public service.
Thank you.
Councilmember Glass.
Thank you, Madam President. One of the detriments of going last is your colleagues eloquently ask all your questions. And I just want to pick up on the last point that Councilmember Albornoz talked about, which was the conversation which was started by my colleague, Mr. Hucker, about some of the problems that community residents, leaders, neighbors are having in where they're trying to report real problems in their community, and the inspectors are showing up during the daytime when no one's home, or mostly at times when they can't get access. And I appreciate the acknowledgement of the issue. And as I understand it, it is not so much an OMB budgetary issue, but one where we'll have to work with our partners in labor to create jobs with schedules set and defined for the type of work schedule we want. And I understand that some of our employees who have come into the system have their set schedules, but as we refine things and recognize the needs, the new needs that exist in the community, creating the jobs to be able to go and do these enforcement checks in the evening or on weekends. Some of the communities have some real concerns, as has been articulated, and I think everyone's work schedules in this modern time fluctuate. And so as you come on board, adding to the list of items that you need to address, I'm glad Mr. Klein is with you, because some of this might rise above your own level as well, but there is real need for it in the community.
Sure.
Great. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Friedson.
I just wanted to note that Councilmember Glass was neither last nor least in this case, and I appreciate the Council President yielding to the undistinguished gentleman from District 1. But at any rate, well, first of all, thank you for your willingness to serve. Obviously, you have significant background in this field. Housing is one of my top priorities, one of this council's top priorities, one of the county's top priorities. This is one of the more important jobs in county government as we try to grapple with how we continue to make Montgomery County a great place to live and work and raise a family. You can't do that. And age in place, you can't do any of that unless we address and seriously tackle the challenge of housing. And it's not unique to Montgomery County. As you know, in Fairfax, it's not unique to the DC region. It's a challenge facing every suburban area outside of major cities where, you know, we are struggling to keep up with the high cost of living and the fact that we need to continue to attract people. And we have, I think, frankly, been resistant to the change that is needed to keep pace with the change that is happening. And so I appreciate the statements that you've made about your view on housing. I've taken some time not only to meet with you, which I appreciated the conversation we were able to have, but I've spoken with many people regionally who I personally know, who have worked with you in government and outside of government, who had very positive things to say about your approach to issues, your creativity, the way that you address challenges. And so I look forward to having you in this role. And I think, you know, the way that you answered many of the questions here, and there have certainly been some disagreements on housing with those in this side of the street and the other side of the street. And so I think you'll be somebody who can really help us to tackle that. But I think the bottom line, as you stated, is that we can't create those opportunities that you talked about in the most desirable places for more people unless we're building new housing, period. And that only happens with new investment. And we can only make so much in terms of public investment. We need private investment. And so your ability to leverage creative financing, your ability to think creatively, I think will be incredibly helpful. But I think it has to start with the philosophy that it only happens with new housing. And we have to build it. So I look forward to working together with you and to be able to tackle that. I'm still not quite sure how it's going to work with the different jobs and the different folks. You do join a team that is very talented. With Tim and Stephanie, who are here, who have really done tremendous work. You know, that $102.3 million that Chair Reamer mentioned with the Housing Initiatives Fund is largely thanks to their efforts and the efforts of the rest of the staff. You have a housing background. We're going to be discussing another appointment with a housing background. So there are a lot of people in this, but I suspect at a certain point it's like assembling a roster where you just take the best player available and then you figure it out as opposed to figuring out a specific role for each person to be in. But I think that's going to be important for us on the council to really be clear of who's responsible for what when it comes to housing acquisition, affordable housing, the different programs and such that we've heard here. Just had a couple questions. One we talked about privately, but I think it's important to discuss. One of the challenges we have here is we don't do anywhere close to as good a job as I wish we did with 9% federal credit financing. One of the challenges, of course, is that I recognize is that in Virginia, as you and I have discussed, there's dedicated funding for Northern Virginia specifically on 9% credits that are allocated regionally. We don't have that same dynamic here. The difference between a 4% deal and a 9% deal, as you certainly know, is tremendous in terms of the ability to provide the 30 to 100% affordability range and the deeply affordable and market rate breakdown that we all would like. Can you talk a little bit about any creative ideas that you might have or ways that you might tackle that to bring the expertise that you've clearly demonstrated in Fairfax to access the 9% deals that might be applicable here, even though we have a bit of a different system?
Sure. As you know, 9% credits are our treasure. They're hard to come by, and they're very competitive. So in Virginia, what we did was, with our political support, we basically asked the Housing Finance Agency to set aside certain amount of credits for new construction and then also for Northern Virginia. We emphasize on the point that Northern Virginia pays lion's share of state's revenue.
We know the feeling.
Are
you here in Annapolis? Are you listening?
But then in return, we were not getting our fair share of state resources. So it didn't happen overnight. There was a lot of back and forth with the state, with the governor's office. But ultimately, we came out winning in terms of setting aside certain amount of credits for Northern Virginia, then also for new construction. That allows our developers to compete relatively well in a very competitive pool. That being said, one thing that we can do, and you and I talked about this privately, the state of Maryland can do is to take the cap off from the 9% credits for housing developments. Right now the cap is $1.5 million, and especially in a high-cost area like Montgomery County, when a developer comes to us, their main argument is they're leaving money on the table because of the cap. So while our goal should be to advise the state, work with the governor's office to set aside credits for Montgomery County in terms of 9%, at least in the short run, if they can take the cap off from $1.5 million, that should help our developers. Secondly, what we did, and I'm sure others are looking at the same model as well, we looked at marrying 9% and 4% credits together in the same transaction. So, and that was the first transaction that I did first time in 2006, and then we did that transaction multiple times, the same structure. In fact, that transaction became so beneficial for the state and also for a professor at UVA, that law professor used that model for his law school students as a test case. So what we need to do here is, besides looking at different resources, whether government resources I mentioned, county-owned land, counties, funds, housing initiative fund, we need to lobby our state partners to give us our fair share in terms of 9% credits. And I think we can get there. It may take us some time, but with a collective effort, we can persuade our leadership in Annapolis to give fair share to Montgomery County residents.
I appreciate that. I think with your expertise and a new approach to some of this, with the expertise that you are coming into, as we heard from some of our other colleagues with a terrific team, I'm hopeful, and I think you'll have a lot of support from colleagues up here. I think that there will be few things as transformational in terms of limited resources and leveraging them as much as possible. If we can do a better job of accessing 9% tax credits and do a better job of making sure that we have that support from the state, and I think you could really bring a great perspective to that. I look forward to that. You mentioned in responding to that question about use of public lands. I think we don't do quite as well in using and utilizing our public lands to create affordable housing. We do it, but I think we could do more of it. Could you just talk a little bit about how that will be something that you emphasize? You mentioned earlier, but if you could just expound upon that a bit.
Yeah, in Montgomery County, we can take a look at county-owned properties. True, not every single property will lend itself for housing purposes, and that's what we found in Fairfax County too. But then we came up with a list of properties which we thought were going to be suitable for housing purposes. So we are taking a bite at that list, and we are making those properties available to our partners, whether they are non-profit or for-profit entities, to build affordable housing. Then we're using our land in terms of ground lease, nominal ground lease. We are also looking at our land where, besides getting nominal ground lease, we are getting economic rent, because we are, as I mentioned, we are not only looking at, in Fairfax County, not just affordable housing, but also student housing. You may ask the question, well, our mission is to do affordable housing, why student housing? We have a piece of property right across from George Mason University. A, we are being a good partner with the university, and then B, by creating student housing, we're going to get economic rent, which we will then use towards affordable housing purposes. So when I mentioned earlier in my remarks menu of options, we are looking at bringing efficiencies to the government, looking at refinancing opportunities. We are refinancing our properties as we speak. We are going to save about $15 million in terms of refinancing over the next 15 to 20 years. So each year we capture that debt service savings, put that into affordable housing. So we are looking at many of options. So to answer your question, land is finite. So we should take a look at our land base here in the county and see which properties are best suited for housing development.
I appreciate that. I think the last council really made this a priority. My predecessor had a bill about making sure that we looked at public lands for use of affordable housing. This has continued with this council. There's some resistance, understandably, always in the executive branch of the complication of having dual uses on those lands. I hope that you will be a very powerful voice within the administration to really push for using public lands for affordable housing, not just as standalone, but alongside other public community uses. I don't think that we can solve this problem without leveraging every single asset we have, and that, one of the largest ones we have is the public lands that we currently own, and so I'm hopeful that you will do that. I'll close with just two quick advocacy points on the Housing Initiative Fund that you mentioned earlier. One, while our Housing Initiative Fund is extremely complicated, there's lots of different programs that go through it. It's not for one purpose, it's for all purpose related to retaining and acquiring and financing affordable housing. But one of the challenges that we have is the transparency of it, of understanding for the public, even for us, of exactly what it looks like at any given moment. So I'm hopeful that you could bring some thoughts to that. It's not a criticism, but more of an opportunity. I think it would really allow us to get a lot more trust from the affordable housing nonprofit community, from residents, and allow us to continue to advocate for more money, as this council did. As you may know, we added $5 million additional dollars during the budget process into that Housing Initiative Fund. You heard earlier from Mr. Reamer that the $102.3 million, which is several years of work into that major milestone. But I think just an example, and that I'm aware of in Arlington, I know they have a monthly meeting of a public commission where the Housing Initiative Fund there, the equivalent of it, is discussed. And so I'm hopeful that you can, as one of your first orders of business, bring your background to figuring out ways that we can be more transparent with the HIF. And then number two, as mentioned, the additional funds that we did, that $5 million that we added on this council to the HIF that I pushed for during the budget process, that was just to keep pace with what we had done the previous fiscal year. And as as we have all talked about here, we're not keeping up as it is. And so I hope that you will push as the budget comes through, and you'll be a fierce advocate not only for the use of public lands, but also for making sure that we are adequately funding the HIF so that we can keep up with these goals, and that you will be a constructive partner in that sense. And I think in all of those efforts, you certainly will have partners here on this side of the street who really want to help you with that. And I will just close with a statistic that I've used before. I'll use again, that we have 55% of our housing stock was built before 1950. 55%. Only 14% was built after 2000. So you come into this role where we are just not even coming close to keeping pace with our affordable housing needs and our housing needs for every part of the income spectrum. And so I'm hopeful that you can bring your skills to this job to really tackle this issue with the seriousness that it deserves, starting with the fact that you can't have more affordable housing unless you have more housing. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Vice President Katz.
Thank you very much, and this really is the last. I am the last. I see the lights. I know that unless somebody else jumps in, I shouldn't say it quite that way. But candidly, I'm going to be also not only the last, but the shortest, I believe. I was most impressed when we met in our office. It was a short meeting. Somebody called it speed dating, and it was probably close to that. But you didn't take long to impress me. I know, and we had on that brief conversation, you mentioned, and because I asked, whether or not many of the people that you would have been working with as developers and in Fairfax, whether you would be working with them in Montgomery County as well, because so many people cross jurisdictions, and of course there are people who you already know, who not only are you a resident here, but who you already know from your professional life. You're going to be working with them as well. And I think that's a true positive for us, because they know of the success that you had and that they've had, and that therefore they're going to bring it across the river as well. But I also wanted to mention that you had touched on it before, and that the nonprofit community is a great community. It's certainly in Montgomery County. I know Rebuilding Together is here, and I've gone to their events, and where they have worked with single-family homeowners and people who really who owned a home, but really were not living in the best conditions that they could be living in. And they, as you know, bring in a group of people who really redo that house in a couple weeks. And so I think we need to make certain that we're keeping them whole. I think we need to make certain that we're working with them. And I believe that you certainly are the person that can do that. I look forward to voting for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Nigam. Really appreciate you being here. Yes,
Thank you.
Mr. Klein.
Madam President, if I may,
Sure.
I would just like to thank Tim Getzinger for his fine work as acting director of DHCA for these last 8 months.
I was just going to say that, so I'm so glad you did.
Sorry for
So,
stealing your thunder.
we do appreciate Tim's hard work and everything that he has done to get us to this point. I also want to thank the family of Mr. Nigam for being here. We will be back here around, I think, 2:50 or so to take the public vote. But as you can see, housing is a major priority for us, as it is for many jurisdictions around the region. And we want to do everything possible to lead in this respect. And so we really look forward to working with you to really advance in this very important public policy area. With that, we are going to adjourn, but at 12:30, we're going to meet at the 7th floor to hear from our summer fellows. So if you want to bring your lunch, you can. And then at 1:30, we'll be back down here for public hearings. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you.